Fourth, joining us now, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. And you do care about the midterms, I think. We have made the point, Leader, that maybe President Trump is willing to eat a lot of vegetables if the dessert is going to be coming. But the reality is a lot of your members do have elections in 2 years. Are you on board with everything, or would closing the border and DOGE and deregulation and drill baby drill, would that have been enough for you, or you think we needed to do the rebalancing of trade around the globe?
Well, I'm on board with it. And in fact, President Trump talked about all of these items. Clearly, he talked about the border a lot. He talked about inflation. He talked about gas prices. He talked about getting our economy moving again. But he talked about getting fair trade with our friends and enemies around the world. And this was something he's talked about. Really, you go back to 2016. It's something he's felt strongly about for a long time. So everybody, I think, knew this was going to be something the president would confront. And look, when we get out of this and we have new agreements, you know, you've heard Scott Bessent, over 75 countries want to renegotiate. There are a lot of countries that are in the process of negotiating a better trade deal right now. If we end up with no trade tariffs for either side, look, countries were hitting us with tariffs left and right, and we weren't hitting them with anything. Right now, their tariffs are still higher, but if they drop their tariffs and we drop ours, I think we're going to end up with a better economy.
But are you hearing any rumblings or things that we don't know about? Maybe some near-term announcements that certainly would be welcomed by the financial markets and I think Republicans in general. Everybody in general.
And we know that there are countries that are talking to the White House about a new deal. You know, are they close to announcing a new deal with some of these countries? And I think it's only going to be a few. You get Japan, you get India, you get one or two more. Everybody's going to know, okay, that's the template for every other country. It's not like you're just going to get one-off deals and everybody else is going to be waiting for their own separate deal. I think, you know, the way it goes with the first few countries is going to be the type of deal you're going to be seeing with other countries too. China is going to be a unique situation because of how they treat intellectual property, how they don't play by their own rules, they manipulate currency. But when you see, hopefully, a new set of trade deals coming where you drop tariffs on both sides, that's what I think a lot of us would like to see, then you'll get a lot more stability. The other part of that, and that's something that we're in the middle of right now, and that is this budget reconciliation bill. If we lock in tax rates, meaning no tax increases, and you not only renew current tax rates for 10 years, but permanently, if we get a permanent American tax code where rates aren't going to be subject to going up depending on who's in Congress, I think that'll bring even more stability to the economy and trillions of new investment that is just sitting on the sidelines right now.
We heard maybe the top rate goes back up to 39 at 6 or whatever it was, 40%. We heard it bandied about. We heard President Trump say, no, it's not going to happen. We had Congressman Smith on yesterday. He wouldn't take it off the table, again, as a pay-for maybe for some of the other priorities the president have with tips and Social Security taxes. Can you take it off the table? Will the 2017 bill, will that be extended in total?
That's what I'm pushing for. I don't want to see anybody's tax rates go up. You know, we're looking at a reduction for people that make tips. Obviously, no tax on tips has been a hallmark of what President Trump talked about during the campaign. And you know Jason Smith and his committee is working to follow through on that. But let's start with a baseline that nobody's tax rates go up, meaning we keep all current rates the same.
You're not saying
then you can go look at additional pro-growth items.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. You're not saying no way, no how on that. It's a possibility.
Well, I'm saying nobody's tax rate should go up. Nobody's tax rate should go up.
Should. Will or should?
Well, look, I mean, every committee's working through this process right now. But I think if you look at what we know is going to work to create economic growth, to bring more investment into the country, it's lower tax rates, not higher tax rates.
But it'll be scored on this by the CBO as a big budget buster if you extend those tax cuts without any pay-fors.
Well, and we're working on a lot of pay-fors, and in fact, the economic growth just from renewing current rates, the growth you'll get in the economy. I've heard numbers from private sector groups saying there's $3-4 trillion sitting on the sidelines waiting for us to act. And I know CBO doesn't recognize a lot of that kind of growth, but that's real growth. That's real economic activity and real wage increases for hardworking families. They will surely see it. You know, when you go to the grocery store, you will see lower food costs. That matters to families. That's who we're focused on.
Leader Scalise, let's focus on two things, the growth and the prices that you just mentioned. We just got the numbers from ADP showing less job creation than we had anticipated for the month. We're going to be getting GDP for the first quarter coming out. The Wall Street Journal this morning has an article suggesting that prices are going to go up in the next 5 to 7 weeks, potentially, for a lot of things that consumers will be buying, not just at grocery stores, but at department stores, at some of the big box retailers as well. If that happens, I mean, we can talk about growth taking care of some of these things, but if things go in the opposite direction, if growth comes down, if employment comes down, if prices go up, what do we do at that point? And where do you think we stand right now in the economy?
A lot of those things are predicated on the uncertainty with tariffs. We all know that. President Trump talked about that at the State of the Union. But people like me do not think that this is going to be sustaining itself for months from now. I think
tariffs,
if you fast forward 2 months from now, tariffs and tax rates, if you fast forward 2 months from now and we have a stabilized tax code and we have agreements with other countries, maybe not all 75, but let's say you get agreements with 8 countries, 4 countries that are major trading partners with America that drop their tariffs down. That will tell you where a lot of the off-ramps are going to go with other countries too, and I think you'll see the markets react to that. Will it happen? I think it will, because I know how President Trump negotiates deals. He's got a proven track record, and I think we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt based on his history and how he knows how to make deals. He's here to get deals for the American workers and the American people.
Leader Scalise, I wanted to ask you about just how you think retailers around the country should deal with transparency around pricing. You've been a big advocate over the years for pricing transparency, specifically in the healthcare arena, around drug pricing, and in a number of other instances you've called for transparency around pricing. How would you feel if a retailer were to describe pricing around tariffs to suggest, for example, that prices had gone up by 20% or 30% as a function of tariffs?
Well, when I talk about transparency, and I've been very clear about this, as you mentioned, in healthcare, it's the only form of pricing that you cannot find out what something costs. You know, American consumers are the best shoppers in the world, and yet if you tried to find out what a gallbladder operation or what a heart surgery might
one of those,
cost. Any other procedure, you can't find it out. You can call a hospital and they won't give you a price. You can call 5 hospitals. They won't give you any prices. That's got to change. We want to see price transparency there so you know what something costs. Now, if you attach political items to a cost, not, okay, here's the price of a good and then here's the sales tax to that item. You know, those are fixed costs. If you're going to start attaching other things to it that are based on political decisions, you know, that's a different situation. We've never had a tariff line item for anything. And by the way, again, tariffs have been hit against us in America for decades, for generations, and presidents have just let it happen, Republican and Democrat alike.
Leader,
President Trump's the first president to say, let's get treated fairly.
Most of the tariffed items that have been on the list, by the way, including under President Biden, it's worth noting, have been for things like EV batteries, semiconductors, solar, less oriented around things that are available for retail, meaning that the actual consumer at the end buys. So the comparison is a little different. And so my question is, if, for example, an item at Walmart goes up by double, should Walmart be able to tell its consumer that it's gone up by double as a function of the tariff, or do you consider that, as President Trump does, a hostile act?
Well, that seems more political, but think about this. When you go to the pump to buy gasoline, did you see them putting an item when Joe Biden shut off American energy and prices went up? Did you see them put an item going, you're paying $4 instead of $2 a gallon because of Joe Biden's anti-American energy
I did
policies?
see delivery
They didn't do
charges
that.
go into some. I did see delivery charges or whatever they call those charges when oil
But if
prices
you
go up.
use
or
it
gas
showing
prices go
up
up.
But if you talk about every
people
regulatory,
knew-
over-regulatory
Yes.
issue in
But
By the way,
people knew
I was at gas
people knew
stations
innately why the
where
price was
the
higher.
gas station had put up blame Biden.
I did that.
I actually saw that. I saw people do that. Blame Biden.
Yeah.
Now, those are small gas stations.
Right.
I'm not
but
saying that these
wasn't
are.
Shell or Chevron or the gas
I understand.
companies doing that.
I guess the
But
question,
people
though,
knew
is,
why the
do you-
higher price was there.
But do you believe that that businesses should be allowed to communicate to their own customers about why prices are whatever they are? Or do you believe that they should not be allowed to do that? And if so, do you consider that to be a form is it a protected free speech or not?
Well, are they also going to put in when China steals our intellectual property and that jacks up the cost of items because we're paying for all of the IP and China's stealing
Leader,
it? Are they
I
gonna
don't
put that on
disagree
an
with
item
you.
too?
I don't disagree with you. My question to you is slightly different, which is, do you believe that A, American businesses have the right and should be allowed to tell their customers whatever they want, and two, that transparency, if they want to talk about those other tariffs, maybe they should. But my question is, do you think that it's a hostile act to do so?
Well, businesses can communicate with their customers however they want. That's between a business and their customer. But then again, it's why a lot of businesses don't delve into political issues because, some of their customers might not appreciate that. That's, again, going to be some choices they have to make.
Leader Scalise, thank you. We got a GDP number coming up right at the bottom of the hour. Thank you.